The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, this vicious swaz of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V.
Hey, yo, what the hell is going on, friends? Welcome back to In Madness Pod. This is a very special episode 33. I'm Shawn the Butcher, here with Vertebrae33. How the hell's it going?
What's up, Shawn?
He's in the dark. What are you doing?
What's going on?
What the hell are you doing?
I'm hanging out in the dark.
Oh, cool. This is a visual bit if you're watching us on YouTube. Nice Guy Fawkes mask.
just the album. How's everybody doing? I know, I listen only on iTunes because I'm a geek and I listen to our own podcast, but it's mainly so I can make a long list of all my mistakes and I can try to correct them. And then as soon as I correct them, I make new mistakes and then it's a whole thing. But I felt like I wasn't doing a good job of explaining things when we do it visually. So I got to do a better job with that.
Yeah. What was that? The comic book?
That's the cover of the album, the vinyl.
Oh, nice. Of course you have the vinyl. Make sure you follow us on all of the socials at InMadnessPod, InMadnessPod@gmail.com if you want to email us. We are also on YouTube and you can see Vertebrae33's visual bits. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, give us the 5 stars. Follow the In Madness Spotify playlist, which I'm sure we're going to be adding music to at the end of what will be a few episodes. Happy In Madness Monday. If that's when you're listening, spread the madness. Tell everyone you know about this show. For your In Madness shirts, go to inmadness.com, and I believe has a new system been set up. Check out Vertebrae's In Madness shirt on the YouTube. We set up a system? Can we get larger shirts now?
So if you want to get the black eyeball tentacle shirt, you can get that in 2X or 3X right now. Just the black eyeball tentacle shirt. So go ahead and order away. Order a few.
What mug do you have for this episode, Vertebrae?
So I don't have a one for the movie. So I just went like, let me turn it around. You ready for the big reveal?
Yeah,
I just went classic Stormtrooper with it. It's kind of like it's like he's frowning instead of smiling, But if I started with the Star Wars mugs, we'd be covered through the next like 45 episodes or something like that.
And you 50. Do have the vinyl for this movie. You just held that up, the Guy Fawkes mask from the vinyl.
Yeah, I do. And you know what, Shawn, they include in the edition I got, they include like a mask, like a pop-out mask, but like I don't want to like destroy the contents of the record. So
not like you just tore apart your McCready toy.
No, it's good. That was just the packaging. But we were on Instagram Live before this, and it's on our socials. It's on Instagram right now. We did an unboxing, a horrible unboxing, because I led the way with no way to hold my phone for Amondo's McCready toy, and it was really cool. And I'm excited. And Shawn and I are going to play action figures later. So
we're going to post another picture, a clear picture of that. Once you have it all set up with the head and everything, with the legs coming out of it, we should definitely take a picture of that and post it on the In Madness socials. And really quickly, I want to shout out our show that we have coming up very soon. Once this episode is posted, our the Lost Becomes Resistor, Wreath of Tongues, Trip Villain, and Silentist show happening in Massapequa, VFW in Long Island, New York. So if you check out this episode, if you can make it to the show, I will be there. Vertebrae will be there. Tons of great music. We'll have In Madness shirts. There's going to be Hot Chicken Mama, which is a great restaurant here in Long Island. And I think we're giving away 3 pairs of Heavies headphones, which are like the custom heavy metal headphones. So shout outs to Heavies headphones. Yeah, it's going to be a good fun time. I'm looking forward to partying with you.
I mean, we could get new headphones to the podcast. You said 3 pairs, so
yeah, they just give it all to us. Yeah.
But anyone who comes up to me and says they listen to the podcast, except for Shawn, anyone else that says they listen to the podcast, we'll get them a free T-shirt. Not there on the spot. We're not going to have piles of T. We may have shirts there.
I'll bring a box. I'll bring a box of shirts.
We will have shirts there, and if we have your size, we'll give it to you. If we don't, and we don't have the In Madness, I'll send you out a Vertebrae one. But either way, we'll give you something free. And Shawn will give you a big old hug for listening.
I mean, I guess we'll see. It's the times are getting crazy again. I'll give you a fist bump again.
Oh, go just fist bump. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
just
do a
fist bump.
nod. I'll do a
Yeah.
nod then.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, maybe I'm not going then. I'll just sit outside. Is there windows? I'll look through the windows.
I sure hope so. What movie are we doing, Vertebrae, for your special episode 33, handpicked by you?
We are doing V for Vendetta, released 2005. And they wanted to release it, Shawn, around November 5th, and then some stuff got delayed, so they weren't able to do it. But you always remember the 5th of November, and we'll get into it. Which is actually my wedding anniversary.
Oh,
The 5th of
cool.
November. So I did it so this way I wouldn't forget. I can never get in trouble because of the movie. It helps me out. Directed by James McTeague, and that's his directorial debut, and the screenplay by the Wachowskis, with a score by Dario Marinelli, who I have it on vinyl. But the big part of this is that it's based off of a Vertigo comic, written by Alan Moore. David Lloyd did the artwork, and I give a quick synopsis on Alan Moore because I feel like anything I do will be an injustice to who he is. English author, mostly worked in comics, although he has a new book. He had a short story book that just came out now, and he has something else coming out soon, but I just picked it up, but it's in my giant stack of books that I have to read. He's known for Watchmen, V for Vendetta, Swamp Thing. His run on Swamp Thing is the most epic run on Swamp Thing. Batman the Killing Joke, From Hell. And he's written, like I said, a ton of short stories as well. And, he's a lovable curmudgeon. He's known for being, of all things, he's also like a wizard, like a self-proclaimed wizard of some sort. He has some cool videos online you can subscribe to, like a service, and listen to him talk about writing. And he's ridiculously smart, but he's known for hating his movie adaptations. And he declined to watch this film at all. He read the screenplay apparently and hated it, and then did not want to be credited or paid royalties on it. So it's not like he's just being cranky. He didn't even take the money. So you got to give him respect for that, right, Shawn?
Yes, that's definitely not being petty as hell about it. Like, I want literally nothing to do with your creation.
Right. And he has a quote, and he talks about kind of his reputation of being cranky, and I thought it was just interesting. It says, I think I was suffering from an illusion that I'm really good, and if they put me on a book, I'll start to increase in sales quite rapidly. I assume that they're at least decent enough business people to understand that they will be making much more profit out of me and my work if they treat me failure. So he's talking about the comic industry here. Then if they surrender to their basic impulses and steal all my shit, and that of course turned out to be hopeless romantic fantasy. All of that stuff, all of that material that is owned by various comic companies I have personally disowned. It's just too painful. And more comments on this script, and he said it contains a lot of plot holes that ran contrary to the theme of his original work, which was really about two political extremes: fascism and anarchism. So working against each other, and we get completely different film than the book. The comic is, I mean, they're in relation to each other. They do so many things that are different that I didn't even, as I reviewed this, I didn't even go through the differences. I would just say this movie is loosely based off it, and then very Hollywoodized and, energetic. And there are parts of this movie that I really, really love. And there's other parts of the movie where I'm really, really confused. And Shawn and the audience is going to help me out with this.
I hope. Jesus. Yeah.
Come on, Shawn, you can help me out. That being said, and then I'm going to stop babbling and we're going to jump into the movie because somebody's going to tell me too much shite in the beginning. The cast is Natalie Portman as Evie, Hugo Weaving as V. We've got Stephen Ray as Finch, John Hurt as Sutler, Rupert Graves as Dominic, and Stephen Fry as Gordon Dietrich, kind of the main players. And then we get Roger Allman as Lewis. How do you pronounce his name? Prothero, the voice of London. So yeah, I mean, I'm ready to jump in. I certainly, Shawn, watching it for this, and it was my idea to do this movie. I watched it. You said this before. I watched it with my In Madness brain on. I didn't watch it just as like, oh man, this movie rules. I watched it and then I'd have to talk about it and analyze it. And that's when I discovered a bunch of things where that really confused me, or it was. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. I think when you adapt a book, a comic, whatever, sometimes people, obviously it's not going to be the same. Sometimes people go away of like, I just hate it because it's completely different. I just think this is a separate entity. It's the roots are there, but you have to look at it different. Like The Shining and The Shining book are just so completely different. So, but I'm ready to jump
Was
in.
this your first time seeing V for Vendetta?
No.
Okay.
I've seen it a million times, but this
Okay.
was my first time with the In Madness brain.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, I
Gotcha.
saw this in the theater. I read the comics, so I own it on Blu-ray. I've probably seen this movie before the In Madness brain 20 times. But there's that switch that goes off from doing this podcast and taking notes, where I'm not just watching it and eating something and enjoying it. I'm actually really focused on different parts. And then that's when the questions arise, and
That's
then I can
when, yeah, then the confusion begins. That's so funny. I hope that I can help you work your way through this. So the movie opens. We hear our main character, Natalie Portman, Evie. She says, remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason, plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. She says, but what of the man? I knew his name, Guy Fawkes. I knew in 1605 he attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament. I just learned about Guy Fawkes when I was in London a couple of months ago. I learned all about his history. We see him wheeling barrels of into an underground chamber. Evie says, but who was he really? What was he like? A door flies open. Guy Fawkes' plan has been foiled. A bunch of guys run in with barking dogs. He runs away. Evie says, we are told to remember the idea, not the man. A man can fail. He can be caught. He can be killed and forgotten. We see Guy Fawkes dueling with a bunch of these guards. Evie says, but 400 years later, an idea can change the world. We see the guards have gotten the best of Guy Fawkes. They have him pinned against the wall with their swords.
And let's keep in mind as we watch this, her name's Evie, Evey, begins with an E. E is the 5th letter of the alphabet. Number 5 in Roman numerals is V. So just little connections that we have going on.
I didn't even put that one together. Our next guy is Guy Fawkes being brought to the gallows to be hung. Evie says, I have witnessed firsthand the power of ideas. I've seen people kill in the name of them and die defending them. We see Guy Fawkes being strung up. Evie says, you cannot kiss an idea, cannot touch it or hold it. Ideas do not believe, they do not feel pain, they do not love. With the noose around his neck, we see Guy Fawkes looking into the audience at his lover. She is crying, and then he is hung. Evie says, it is not an idea that I miss, it is a man that made me remember the 5th of November, a man that I will never forget. And then in Fire and Flames, we get the symbol and the title V for Vendetta.
Yeah, and Shawn, watching this movie this time, it's oddly clean looking the way it's filmed. Like it has like almost the beginning with the Guy Fawkes stuff when they're about to hang him. It looks like a music video. Rather, there's not like a lot of film grain to it. It's interesting. They take a lot of chances in this movie with different kind of visuals, and it's almost like a few movies together, like mashed together. We get a little bit of noir bits and crime and solving a case and all of that, and then we get this action, like kind of matrixy kind of action and weird visuals. But yeah, it struck me watching it this time, and I watched it a few times for this episode, is sort of how clean it looked. I bet I don't know if they do that now. If they do it, I think that was a period of time in the early 2000s where they were sort of really enamored with things coming out clearer and clearer.
Polished, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think we've sort of realized, okay, that's as far as you push that, and we don't need it to be as clean, because it's a gritty movie, but it's not a gritty film, if that makes sense, the actual look. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
We cut to our main propaganda talk show host, Louis Prothero. He's screaming about how the U.S. is an ulcerated sphincter. As the broadcast is going on, we see a man sitting in front of a mirror, putting on a Guy Fawkes mask. On the other side, we see Natalie Portman, Evie, putting on lipstick. The man on TV saying the U.S. had absolutely everything. 20 years later, it's the world's biggest leper colony. Why? Godlessness. Let me say it again. Godlessness. It wasn't the war they started. It wasn't the plague they created. It was judgment. No one can escape their past. No one escapes judgment. You think he's not up there? You think he's not watching over this country? How else can you explain it? And then goes on to name every race and religion that isn't white people and says they are disease-ridden degenerates. They have to go. Strength through unity. Unity through faith. I am a God-fearing Englishman, and I'm goddamn proud of it.
And this is, this political story that we're going to get in here, where we get over and over and over again in time. In the book, it's set in 1997 after a nuclear war. In the movie, they set it in 2020 after they face a virus.
There's too many strange coincidences in this movie, a movie that is all about strange coincidences, and they say nothing is a strange coincidence.
Yeah, it's certainly an American movie, so they're going to lean into American politics a lot. This is a direct reaction to, I would say, like Bush era politics and the administration. The book is written as a reaction and a statement on Margaret Thatcher. But when we get a hold of it and we're going to do it for America, they felt like that's probably not going to connect with us, so they went this way with it. And they play a lot with the visuals of camps and where people were taken away and the black bags over the head and stuff with that. But 2020, after the world faces the St. Mary's virus.
The St. Mary's virus. We see our hero in the Guy Fawkes mask getting ready and armed for battle. In another room, Evie is putting on a dress looking like she's getting ready for a date. She's walking the streets. A loudspeaker on the street says a yellow carded coat curfew is now in effect. Any unauthorized personnel would be subject to arrest. This is for your protection. Evie is walking the streets, looking around worried. She heads through an alley, bumps into a man. He's giving her a hard time. He tells her uncle is sick. He says it's all bollocks. And out comes his gross dirtbag buddy from the shadows. They both give Evie a hard time. They begin grabbing at her. She threatens them with mace. They are not impressed. They're like, is she threatening us? The guy flashes his badge, which sort of looks like this double crucifix. She apologizes. She didn't know they were authorities. They say she will be sorry. They begin to advance on her. They grab on her. She begs to be let go. She starts screaming for help, and out comes our hero in the Guy Fawkes mask.
Yeah, and they're the uncomfortably named the Fingermen, who serve the secret police of this, British government, and they're the ones who are sort of tasked with keeping everybody in that state of fear. So they're going to run these codes, this curfew. I don't know. We only hear the yellow carded code. We don't get another one. So I guess they just live in the state of yellow. Would it go like orange and then red?
And then red, yeah.
But if you can't be out when it's yellow, then what do you care what it is past? What does it matter? Yellow just means go home.
Yeah, everything would be on fire if it was in red.
Yeah, I could live with those rules, Shawn.
Yes, just stay in. Stay in before. After 9 o'clock, nobody goes outside.
Fantastic. I could lead that charge.
A lot of this movie is spoken very poetically, so I'm going to have a hard time trying to decipher some things, especially when V begins to introduce himself in about 30 seconds. He says the multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him. The fingermen look at him and tell him to screw off, and out pops a blade. He says, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution. They flash their badge at him, but our hero does not care. He slices the badge in half, punches one of the men. Another man pulls his gun. Our hero grabs it, throws it out of his hand, then cuts off the man's belt, making his pants fall around his ankles. He grabs the guy, throws him across the alley. He faces off with the final authority figure, who ends up punching our hero right in the face. However, this Guy Fawkes mask must be made out of steel because it almost breaks this dude's head. Our hero grabs the guy by his neck, throws throws him against the wall. The man with his pants around his ankles begins crawling away. He begs for mercy. Our hero says, with devotion's visage and pious action, we do sugar over the devil himself. He then strikes the man, knocking him out.
Yes, and I picked the movie for our 33rd episode in honor of Vertebrae33 that has the most V beginning words in any of the any
Prepare
movie
yourself,
ever.
because it's about to get stupid, and I have all of it.
I have it as well because I was like, I wonder if Sean's got to read. Like when I was watching the movie, I was like, I can't wait until Sean.
You get
reads
to
this
tell
part.
me whether I get 90% of this right or 50% of it right.
I'm ready. Here we go.
Evie grabs her mace. Our hero sees her and says he means her no harm. She asks who he is. He says, who was but the form following the function of what, and what I am is a man in a mask. You do realize the paradox of asking a masked man who he is. He says, allow me to suggest the character of this dramatic persona. Whew. Voila! In view, a humble vaudevillain veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage, no mere veneer of vanity, is a vestige of the vox populi, now vacant, vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified, and has vowed to vanquish these venal and virulent vermin vanguarding vice, and vouchsafing, I don't know, the violently vicious and voracious violation of volition. He turns around, he
Yes.
grabs his dagger, he slices a V into the poster behind him. He continues on. The only verdict is vengeance, and vendetta, held as a votive, not in vain, for the value and veracity of such, shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, I don't know this word, a verbiage veers most verbose. So let me simply add that it's my honor to meet you, and you may call me V.
Yeah, I would love if I could introduce myself like that to people. That would be amazing. You know, he's very, very Sean. I used the V word. Here we go. He's very Zorro in this, right? The
He
hat and
literally
everything has a look,
slices a
and he
V into the
slices
wall.
a V. So thank God they went V for Vendetta and not Zorro, because I don't think there's enough Z words to really make sense in this. But this part's very, very, I said it again, comic booky in a lot of ways. And there's quite a few of those parts that are peppered in, balanced with like extreme violence. And but when I say comic booky, I feel like this part is sort of old school comic book dialogue, and then we get stuff that's very 2005, and dare I say a few things that are kind of past, ahead of their time in some ways in the film or whatever. But Sean, I think you should find a way similar to this to introduce yourself to people.
No way. They would tune out within 13 seconds of me building up they're like, there's no way. There's no way anything you're saying is important as, hi, I'm Shawn.
Yeah, I
By
mean,
the
I
time
could
I'm
do it
finished,
right.
they'll be like, all that just to get there, not worth it.
Yeah, I could certainly pull off the voila on Vertebrae33. There's that.
Do a little bow, a little curtsy.
Oh yeah, nice.
Evie asks him if he's a crazy person. He says, I'm sure they will say so, but who are you? She tells him she's Evie. He says, of course you are. He says he does not believe in coincidence. He offers her his hand. He asks if she's hurt. She says she's fine. He asks if she enjoys music. He says he's a musician. He's on his way to give a very special performance. She asks what kind of musician. He says percussion is my specialty. Tonight I intend to call upon the entire orchestra for the event. He asks if she would join him. She wants to go home. He promises her it'll be nothing like she's ever seen, and afterwards he'll return her home safely. They head to the rooftop, looking over the city. V says a more perfect stage cannot be asked for. Evie says she doesn't see any instruments. He says your powers of observation serve you well. V pulls out his little conductor stick and says he dedicates this concerto to Madam Justice, and points at this massive building with Lady Justice on top of it. Under the statue, we see the phrase, defend the children of the poor and punish the wrongdoer. He asks Evie if she knows what day it is. She says November 4th, and then he says, not anymore. He looks over the city and says, remember the 5th of November. He taps his conducting stick on a pole and says, first, the overture. We see him dancing along like he's hearing music. Evie is looking at him like he's crazy. He asks her if she can hear the music, and then all of a sudden, through the speakers in the street, music begins playing. Evie says she can hear it. While the music is blasting through the streets, people are running to their windows to look outside, excited to hear the music. People are walking out onto the streets. Evie is asking V, how is this happening? He says, here comes the crescendo, and kablooey goes the entire building in front of them with Lady Justice on top. The whole building explodes. Fireworks shooting out everywhere. V is elated. He says, isn't it beautiful? Evie is shocked. She cannot believe what's going on. The building is exploding. Fireworks are shooting out in the shape of the letter V. Now that is how you make an introduction. Screw all the V's, blow something up and have a V shoot out in fireworks.
Yeah, he blew up the Old Bailey, which is the Central Criminal Court of England and Wales. And it's interesting, Shawn. This will be the beginning of my running narrative about where does this guy, I know he's running around stealing things and stuff, but he also is like, is he a fireworks expert? Does he have, because he doesn't have, like, if he's Batman, there's no Robin. He's got nobody. The closest he's going to get right now is Evie, who, by the way, just is like, hey, thanks for saving me. Yeah, like, let's go. Let's roll. Let's go check it out. Let's see your music. That's, that's every guy in a band, Shawn. All he has to say is, I'm in a band. Come on, let's go. Let's go hang out. But I think they do an excellent job of setting her up as somebody who wants more out of her life and thinks she could do more, and she has this fractured past, and they're living under this oppression. So it's like you get a window, a chance to go see something different. This guy just saved your life. I mean, probably saved her life. At the very least, saved her being tortured. But definitely for that. But saved her life, and then you're going to go on kind of this, so Alice is going to follow the rabbit down the hole, right? We're headed out. This is this is Luke headed to the Cantina bar to begin his hero's journey as well. And then we hear the 1812 overture being blasted.
We cut to our villain, Evil High Chancellor Sutler. He's bad as hell, and he's very angry. He's on a big TV screen. He says, gentlemen, you have had 4 hours. You'd better have some results, Mr. Creedy. Out from the darkness comes his right-hand man, Mr. Creedy, who tells him the area is quarantined. All witnesses are detained. We see a small cabinet of goons discussing the situation with Sutler. They say a recording device was found wired into the central emergency broadcast system. It was Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture. Do we add it to the In Madness Spotify playlist?
Yes, absolutely. Because, besides what you do on the radio, I'm a huge Symphony Hall fan. So shout out to shows like Baroque and Beyond. You never thought that would get said on here, and there's a show on like modern America. It's American composers. That's on A Living American. It's called. That's on with American composers. Right off the top of my head, I'm remembering this. So yes, that has to go on. Shawn, this Norse Fire, which is this government body, and they have the symbol and everything. They're broken apart into different branches. So do you have this in your notes?
No.
Okay. So there's the head, the executive, the hand, which is the executive branch, the finger, which is the state secret police, the eye, which is the visual surveillance division, the ear, which is the audio surveillance division, and the nose, which is the police department. So I guess they sniff out crime.
Clever.
Yeah. Should have been the mouth for the police department. Like, take a bite out of crime. Doesn't it have a gruff crime? They should have had that be the mouth. But
Sutler is not stoked about the 1812 overture. He wants it added to the blacklist. He never wants it to be heard ever again. They say they're doing random sweeps, monitoring phone surveillance. There's a high percentage of conversation concerned with the explosion. Sutler asks what they're doing about it. They say they're calling an emergency demolition. They have spin coverage on the network and throughout the internet. Experts have been lined up to testify against the structural integrity of the building. Sutler wants Prothero, the evil talk show host, to speak about the dangers of the old building. Sutler saying that he wants Prothero to conclude the new building will become a symbol of our time in the future, that our conviction has rewarded us. They've captured the terrorist on surveillance cameras. The mask makes retinal identification impossible. They get a picture of the girl that was being detained. They don't know who she is. Our main detective, Finch, says the explosives were homemade with over-the-counter chemicals, making them difficult to trace. Whoever the terrorist is, he's very good. Sutler is not stoked to hear it. He tells him this is a test. Moments like these are matters of faith. To fail is to invite doubt into everything we believe, everything we have fought for. Our doubt will plunge this country back into chaos. I will not let that happen. He wants the terrorists found. He wants them to understand what terror really means. England prevails. Everyone repeats, England prevails. But Detective Finch seems like he's over it.
Yeah, Finch wants to be a good detective and do his job. And, this crew here just wants to get rich and keep everyone else suppressed and, make up weird rules and, do oddly close-up view of your crazy face on the screen. Like that's one hell of a Zoom meeting that's happening with that guy. Just
Sutler, yeah,
just yelling at you the whole time. And
all
you just
you
sit in
like
that room.
his teeth. He's got very big teeth, and it takes over the camera.
I would love it if he, when everybody went home for the pandemic and they had to work from home and everybody was figuring out how to like work everything. I would love it if like one of those meetings he like forgot to unmute or something. He's just yelling and they're all going, "You're muted, sir. You're muted." And he's got to go. You just catch the end of prevails when he says England prevails. You kind of like act like you heard what he said. Or he's got the background blurred, like he's on like a beach, when people do the screens, like he's on the beach. Or maybe his is just a bunch of people being suppressed in the
Yeah.
background. That is a bunch of miserable kids
tortured, black bagged in cages.
Yeah.
We see one of Sutler's goons standing in a newsroom. A woman behind him says, "Do you think people will really believe this?" The man says, "Of course, this is the BTN. Our job is to report the news, not fabricate it. That's the government's job." Cut to the news broadcast saying, on the lighter side of things, the crew responsible for the demolition of the old Bailey building wanted to give the old girl a grand, albeit improvised, send-off. The other anchor says the demolition had been planned for some time. The music and the fireworks definitely not on the schedule. So they're delivering all of Sutler's lies to the viewing audience just as he is instructed.
Right. They're going to package all this information up for regular folks like you and me. Keep us nice and calm, keep us in check, and tell us something else. And this has been going on since, the beginning of time, since anyone was in charge. And we tend to only find out about a lot of these things, way down the line. And it's interesting, this is the beginning of sort of this revolution that we assume takes place when this film is over, with V leading the way. And at this point, besides the fireworks, which have been around for a really long time, he's got knives. So he's battling, in a lot of ways, a true revolutionary, right? He doesn't even have the correct equipment to go ahead and battle these people. But yeah, that's the trick, Shawn. Dangle some stuff over here to one side. You pay attention to this. And on this side, we suppress all your rights.
We see our main detective Finch looking at closed circuit cameras, pictures of V from the fight in the alley the night before. His partner says, "Why does a guy wear a Guy Fawkes mask? Didn't Fawkes try to blow up Parliament?" Finch says, "It's not too late. He's still got another 16 hours. Finch says maybe he's just getting started. They get a phone call and say they have a lead on the girl. Evie's at work, TV station, carrying a tray to Dietrich. Dietrich's like our late night David Letterman talk show host. He's like the opposite of Prothero. He's talking about a cow being crucified. He's like, that's hysterical. It'll never get approved. Evie gives him his tea and his biscuits. He says he's never been stood up by a more attractive woman. She says last night when she was on her way to see him, she got stopped by the fingerman. She says she got scared and went home. Dietrich says after last night, curfew will only get worse.
And Shawn, before we go too deep with Guy Fawkes, and you talked about knowing a little bit about it, but he had planned with this other guy, Robert Catesby, to assassinate King James and restore the Catholic monarch to the throne. So he really doesn't represent what they have him represent in this film in a lot of ways, because I would, I don't think the Catholic monarch, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they'd be the most open-minded crew that year. So it's interesting that it becomes that, and now is sort of he's forever changed for all of us. I would venture to say most people had no idea who he was until they saw this movie. This mask becomes an iconic mask, and everyone knows it, and it becomes iconic with Revolution. It's just interesting how that's played out. I wonder what Guy would think about that.
He'd be stoked. We cut to our main detective, Finch, and his sidekick kicking down Evie's door. They go through her belongings. Finch picks up her work card at the television station and says, "Gotcha." Evie's walking around her job pushing a cart full of boxes. She brings it into a room full of many scantily clad women. The woman in charge of the room asks what the boxes are. Evie does not know. They just showed up, marked for stage 3. The woman in charge opens up a box and pulls out a Guy Fawkes mask. Evie is in shock.
Yeah, and so am I, Shawn. This is where my shock and my confusion begins. So we're going to see this a few times in this movie. Explain this to me. Where did these masks come from?
I mean, V definitely shipped them all out somehow.
How?
That's that's asking too much detail. It just did.
And so, where did he get them all? He ordered them.
Amazon, baby.
Right. So if you wanted to track him, would you just check the orders? The guy who ordered 1,000 masks. You're like, hey, wait a minute, I think that's me. And they're neatly shipped in a package, all over the place, and we see it again later on. But this is the first time in all the times I saw this movie, because I got to sit and take notes, and I'm paying attention. Like, wait a minute,
how
is he standing in line at that post office, and everybody behind him is really annoyed because he's got so many packages? And is he doing? Maybe he's getting pickup. He's just getting he's calling for a pickup, and they're coming to pick up the packages, and he's shipping he's packing them all up individually and put the mask in there. And
wait till later when you find out that he can fix an entire railroad by himself.
Yeah, no assistance. This is where I wonder if they could have at least revealed a few people that were kind of working behind the scenes for this revolution. It doesn't have to be Finch, but there could be a few people. Maybe that's a cool reveal if you find out that. I mean, I guess it's not a cool reveal if it's the guy from the shipping and receiving department of the mask company. That wouldn't be that cool. But maybe he has some people in cahoots with him, because this is where some of that, we get. We should make a new drop for that, but we get movie logic is what we'll call it.
Our main detective, Finch, is looking up Evie's info. He says this is serious. Her parents were political activists. They were detained when she was 12. She went to juvie for 5 years. Finch wants to talk to her before she disappears into one of Creedy's black bags. Evie knows something is up and begins packing her bags to leave the station. When out from an elevator comes our hero, V. The security guard pulls out his gun, but V pushes aside his cape to show that he is strapped to the gills with bombs, and he pops open a detonator.
Mm-hmm.
Cops pull up to the TV station. V is in the newsroom holding the detonator. V hits the fire alarm. Everybody evacuates the building as Evie is trying to leave. Finch and his partner spot her and they begin to chase her. At home, everyone's TV begins to cut out. In the newsroom, they pop a DVD into a player, and now all the TV signals have been restored with V, who is now addressing the audience. He wants to celebrate November the 5th as a holiday. day that is sadly no longer remembered. Take some time out of your daily lives to sit down and have a little chat. There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak. Even now, orders are being shouted into telephones, and soon men with guns will be on their way. We see some of the men from Sutler's cabinet freaking out that V has control of the TV station. He says words will always retain power. Words often the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. The truth is there is something terribly wrong with this country. Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once we had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting submission. How did this happen? Who's to blame? There are those who are more responsible than others. They will be held accountable. If you're looking for the guilty, you need only to look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid, but who wouldn't be? War and disease, a ton of problems conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic, you turned to High Chancellor Sutler. He promised order, peace, and all he demanded was your silent, obedient consent. Last night, I sought to end that silence. Last night, I destroyed the Old Bailey to remind this country of what it has forgotten. More than 400 years ago, a great citizen wished to embed the 5th of November forever in our memory. His hope was to remind the world that fairness and justice and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives. If you've seen nothing, if the crimes of this government remain unknown to you, I suggest you let the 5th of November pass unmarked. But if you see what I see and feel what I feel, if you would seek as I seek, as I ask you to stand beside me 1 year from today, outside of Parliament, together we shall give them a 5th of November that shall never be forgot.
Stirring speech. I wish I had that. I was so articulate that I could rail against AI art in the same way that it's interesting, because this takes place in 2020. I would think people view television a lot different now than they used to, but this has kind of that old school feel where everybody would be watching the same program at the same time. And if you're, Shawn's age or my age, you would go to school and everybody had to watch like the same thing and talked about it. And I know this is a news report, but it's that one channel that everybody's listening to. Maybe they only have one channel. Maybe they only have the state run channel. Maybe they don't, there's
Sutler's
nowhere to...
definitely got all televisions under control.
Yeah, I guess they would just have the one channel. I don't know what they show during the day. Do they have sports? Do they cover sports? Do they...
It's probably QVC. They're like, buy these pearls for only
Yeah.
$9.99. The first 100 callers get a free laundry detergent.
It's like they have like a weather report. They're like, it's gonna be rainy, so stop complaining.
Yeah,
like that's the whole report.
The weather is bad. Stay inside.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they've got everybody kept, and they've got everybody, and certainly the government is, rightfully so, nervous about anyone who's able to infiltrate them and tap in. And now, you're in the station and able to play this DVD and send people. I watch. How did you watch this movie, Shawn? Did you watch for this?
I rented it from the library on DVD.
That's awesome. So I had it on Blu-ray, and this Blu-ray, for some reason, is one of the most annoying Blu-rays ever known to man. And that there's all the special features on it, and on my 4K player, it wouldn't go to the main menu and I have a new 4K player to see the special features. And then the movie, every time I went back to it, would just start at the beginning. So like if I watched an hour and a half and then I want to go back, I'd have to start all over. You get the FBI warning, you get the whole whatever.
That happened.
And there was never a menu.
Surprisingly enough, yeah.
Yeah, there was never a menu, and there were like making of stuff and this, like the special features. And for some reason, this 4K player, which is pretty new, wasn't able to access it. So that was kind of annoying. I wasn't going to buy it again. And it's on no streaming services, by the way.
Local library. Shout outs to the local library. Rent your favorite movies and video games from your local library today.
Oh man, we gotta get a library sponsorship on here.
The authorities break down the door to the newsroom. They go in and search. A man comes out screaming, "Please don't shoot!" But he has the Guy Fawkes mask on, so immediately he gets shot. He tells them he put the mask on everyone. Everyone in the newsroom comes out wearing V's mask and cape. They're told there is a bomb in the control room. They clear the building. We see the bomb in the room. They got 3 minutes. One of Sutler's cronies is trying to disarm the bomb. It does not look like he knows what he's doing. One of the people dressed in V's uniform begins screaming that someone else is V, the terrorist. All the cops point their guns at the man. They remove his mask, but it's not V. Behind rises V, whips out all his knives and starts killing all these fingermen. Sutler's cronies clips a wire and he disarms the bomb.
Yeah, that scene, Shawn, the clipping of the wire, absolutely absurd. Because he goes to clip the one wire and then he changes and then he goes to the other one. And like everyone's just like chit-chatting about it. And it's, you know, there's no bomb squad. There's no, yeah, that's a really, really bad idea. That's more movie logic for you.
It's like the lights in Quiet Place. How they one color? How do they switch to another color?
Yeah, this is where we lose a listener because they're just like, God, this guy's so annoying. Why is he concerning himself with stuff with wires all the time?
V is evading arrest when he's stopped by a cop who tells him to freeze. Evie sees all of this happen. Evie approaches the cop and maces him. She saves V, but she gets knocked out in a scuffle. There's a report on the news. The news anchor is saying it's a terrifying report. Families are watching, very worried, saying a terrorist takeover ended moments ago, calling V a psychotic terrorist. He used weapons against unarmed civilians in order to broadcast a message of hate. On the news, they show the police raid. They show them shooting the person in V's costume. However, what they don't show is the audio of the man screaming, "Please don't shoot me," before they shoot him. So the news is just twisting every little thing around the way that they want the public to perceive it. The news anchor says, according to reports during the heroic raid, the terrorist was shot and killed.
Yeah, they're on full spin mode right now.
We very quickly get a security shot of V, very much not dead. He's looking at the maced cop and Evie lying unconscious on the floor. We see Detective Finch watching the security tape. They're wondering why Evie saved V. Evie wakes up. She's in a place that's not her own. Her head is bleeding. She's surrounded by books. She walks into a hall. She sees a statue of Guy Fawkes. I think it's a statue of Guy Fawkes. It's got to be. She sees rare paintings hanging on the walls. It's a beautifully furnished place with lots of rare artifacts. It's even got a jukebox. V approaches and asks how Evie is feeling. Tells her this is his shadow gallery. It's very cool. It's kind of like my room and Vertebrae33's room. These are our little shadow galleries.
Yeah, but you know, if you back up, when she wakes up, first of all, she wakes up in a room. So we've got another movie where somebody wakes up. Natalie Portman wakes up a few times in this film. And the room that she's in is both my dream and my nightmare, because there's in that room, there's just books stacked. My dream is that there'd be all those books stacked. The nightmare is none of them are organized. And a lot of them are you can't see the binding, right? It's not facing where you can see the name of the book. So that would drive me nuts right off the bat. And then when you go into that room, I did not write out all the artifacts and famous paintings that are in there. And there is a ton. And I desperately tried to find somebody who had already made the list, and they didn't. So if there's anyone out there who knows this or wants to go through it for me and write them out and email it to us at, what's our email, Shawn?
inmadnesspod@gmail.com.
You send me a list of all the artifacts in there. I'll send you a free t-shirt. That's how
look at that. Help us out.
Because I gotta know all of them. It was just too many. But yeah, this is not the last special room with artifacts that we see in this movie.
She asks where he got all these ancient artifacts. He says much of it is from the vaults of the Ministry of Objectionable Materials. She asks if he stole them. He says no, stealing implies ownership. I merely reclaimed them. Evie says if the authorities ever found this place, he says if they do, art will be the least of my worries. Evie becomes angry for macing the cop. V tells her she did what was right. She says she shouldn't have done that. She must be out of her mind. He says, is that what you think or what they want you to think? She wants to go home. V tells her they are looking for her. They know where she works. They know where she lives. She wants to stay with friends. V says that will not work. He tells her he did not want this for her, but there was no other way. She was unconscious and he made a decision. If he left her there, she'd be getting interrogated in a cell. They'd imprison you, torture torture you, kill you just to find me. He says, after what you did, I couldn't let that happen. So I picked you up, carried you here to the only place I knew you'd be safe. She promises not to tell anyone where he lives. He says he can't take that risk. She says, now I'm your prisoner. He says, only till I'm done. After the 5th, it won't matter. She says, you mean a year from now? I have to stay here for a year? He apologizes. He says he didn't know what else to do. She says, you should have left me there.
Yeah. And, you know, at first, this logic is like, hey, you got yourself in trouble, and there's probably no way to explain this to the authorities. So they're just going to implicate you in this. But then later on in the film, we sort of find out that she's kind of able to just go back into society and fold in perfectly fine for a little while. So not nice on V's part. I mean, I assume he's lonely. He probably only talks to the mask maker and the fireworks expert or something
through his Amazon account. Detective Finch and his partner are looking into Evie's parents. Her mother died in a hunger strike. Her dad was killed by the military, and her brother was at St. Mary's. We get a shot of this delicious food that forever, I always wanted this exact same thing. Every time I see it, it makes my mouth water. He's cooking a piece of toast in a pan with some oil. And right in the middle of this toast is this delicious looking egg. I wonder what Chef Brian would think of this from our menu episode. Even more importantly, I wonder what Chef Slovik would think about this meal. What do you think about it?
It looks great. What do they call it? Like toad? Oh, they call it something later in the movie, but some people call it toad in a hole or something like that. You take the center of the bread out and cook the egg there in the bread. It looks good. I mean, we do get sort of our funniest moment in the film coming up when we see V.
We see he's cooking, but his hands are badly burned. Evie comes out and apologizes. She understands what he did for her, and she's very grateful. She gets a look at his hands. He gets embarrassed. He puts on his gloves. She asks him what happened to his hands. He says there was a fire long ago, ancient history.
Yeah, the funny part is that he's wearing this apron.
Oh, so he does have like the little flower apron on.
Yes, he's got a flower apron on, and he's still got the mask on. He's wearing that mask all the time. He's the original Mandalorian. This guy, you know, can't take the mask off for anything, no matter what.
Vertebrae is on his 3rd Star Wars reference of episode 33.
It's a special. It's my party. I can do what I want. But I'm not eating those eggs, Shawn, because like he's cooking them with those horrifically burned hands. I don't mean to be mean about that, but that would kind of, it would certainly freak me out. But here's the thing: those eggs look amazing.
Oh, I would eat them right up.
So I think I'll take that back. I think I would eat the eggs, but I think I would be really thrown off. You know, hey, there's something wrong with this guy, or what happened, or I don't know. Maybe is he even human? I don't know. Like there's what you know, we don't see anything. We know the mask, you know, is on, but it's interesting that he sits around with the wig and the mask, and you know, he's got it on the entire film. So yeah, crazy.
He serves her this delicious looking egg toast. She said she hasn't had real butter since she was a little girl. She asked where he got it. He says the supply was on its way to High Chancellor Sutler. She chokes on it and says, you stole this from Chancellor Sutler? He says, yes. She tells him he's insane. He says, I dare to all that may become a man who dares more is none. Evie knows he quoted Macbeth. She says her mom used to read all his plays to her. Ever since then, she's wanted to act, be in plays, movies. V asks where her mother is. She says she's dead. He apologizes. She wants to know about what he said in the television studio, if he meant it, if he thinks blowing up Parliament is going to make the country a better place. He says there is no certainty, only opportunity. She says anyone who does show up will be black-bagged. V says people should not be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid of their people. She says you're going to make that happen by blowing up a building. He says the building is a symbol, as is the act of destroying it. Symbols are given power by people. A symbol is meaningless, but with enough people, blowing up a building can change the world. She says she wished she believed that was possible. She says every time I've seen this world change, it's always been for the worse.
He's like a more violent Batman. Probably, right?
He
And a lot.
kills people. Batman does his best not to kill anybody, but I think
That's
he
what I'm
killed a
saying.
few people in the Batman. But yeah, V doesn't care. He will slice and dice and make julienne fries out of your face and fingers.
Yeah, I would have liked if he was using those knives in the kitchen when he had the eggs. Maybe he was cutting some fruit
There's just
with them or
blood all
something.
over him.
No, yeah, but just wipes it. Then he cuts up some orange slices or something for Evie.
And with that, my friends, I think we're doing something special for this episode. We're going to break this one up into a couple of different parts, not 33 parts, that's for sure. But this will be an extra episode, we'll call it. 3 parts for you, wrapping up episode 1, part 1 of episode 33 of In Madness Pod, of our ridiculously themed numbered system, because this is realistically like episode like 60 something or whatever, but none of that matters. What matters is it's episode 33 for Vertebrae 33, who picked this movie, V for Vendetta, one of my favorites. I saw it in theaters. I read the comic book. I'll reference the comic book, I think, in the next episode. The only thing that I remember from the comic book. But how do you feel so far about part 1 of your episode 33, Vertebrae?
It's fantastic. I'm having a good time. I like having you do all the speeches. You're doing a good job with all the speeches.
It's hard.
Follow along, kids. You can watch the movie, turn the sound down, and hear Shawn do the speeches.
Yeah.
That'd be great. But appreciate anyone tuning in to listen to us. I'll just say that we're not only is the show coming up end of August, we're also we're on the fast track to New York Comic Con in October. And I've got some really cool things planned for New York Comic Con. I sent Shawn a tease the other day on
so
something.
that's a Comic-Con thing.
Well, we'll see. But it's
Okay.
definitely going to be around the same time.
Cool.
But and there's some other things in the works. Oh, I struggled with that. In the works to unveil soon. I appreciate anyone listening to us. And please come back. We got 2 more parts to this.
Give out your socials, Vertebrae. What are you, so people can check out all your artwork?
Yeah, I'm at Vertebrae33 on all the socials, and you can go to Vertebrae33.com. You can go to InMadness.com and buy an In Madness shirt. You can go to a Hot Topic and buy shirts of mine. You can go to a Spencer's right now and buy a shirt of mine as well, and more to come on all of that. But
hell yeah,
appreciate anyone listening.
I am at Shawn the Butcher on the socials. We are at In Madness Pod. You can email us about this episode if you read the comic, if you enjoyed the movie, inmadnesspod@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, give us 5 stars. Check out the In Madness Spotify playlist, which is now going to have, what is it? The Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, right? I can't even get that all out correctly.
Absolutely, which the piece commemorates Russia's successful defense against the French invasion in 1812. So that's why it's the 1812 Overture.
We will see you at episode 33, part 2, next week in Madness Pod.